Good morning, Seller Sessions. Izabela Hamilton here, CEO of Bell, and I have with me the Miss Wonderful Olivia Jones.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
I am so happy we got to meet in person slash not really.
Yeah, in the modern way of meeting.
I know. I had somebody ask me like 2 years ago and say, you're going to be doing Zoom like every single day with people. I'll be like, no, first of all, what is Zoom?
What is
But
it? Is the first question. Yeah.
like just looking at the company, like how smart of Zoom just to be able to like put on such a platform. And just I think of this often, just like how people are able to capitalize on things that are needed at the moment, but like recognize before it's time that it's going to be huge. And it all starts from like solving problems. And like you read that in books and people are like, yeah, sure, whatever. But if you really look at the most successful companies, they were able to recognize a few steps before something major happened and put it into practice. I mean, I don't even know if Zoom ever thought they would become so successful due to this, but that was a good move. I mean, for them and for us, because we're able to, do interviews and create relationships where most people are just stuck in the house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
I
good
think
thing.
it was kind of a logical transition to happen that we'd moved to doing video meetings. But I guess the pandemic was the push we needed to do it. But it saves so much time and travel, I mean, it's kind of genius. But yes, I've
Yeah.
had a really good dose of doing it all day, every day for quite a while. So I'm ready to start meeting in person again too.
I know, I love it. It was definitely tough for me during that, pandemic period. I mean, I know we're still in it, but it's a little bit looser now. It was just tough because I'm such an extrovert. Like I need people around me. I need conversations. I need to be like in person and look somebody in the eyes. I mean, you can do most of it through, video call, but it's so different when you're in person. Like you're able to expand on different topics and get to know somebody at a much higher level than you would over like a 1 hour call. And I'm definitely looking forward to having that more often too. Are you coming to US soon? I know you're in London.
I want to. I was hoping to come, now time. But I mean, there are a lot of conferences coming up that I'm hoping to go to. The restrictions do seem to be lifting.
Yes, I
So
saw that. I am so
hopefully,
happy. Oh,
yeah.
did you see anything in the news there that says that everything is going to like kind of be okay? Like what's happening right now?
I think at least in the UK, they're lifting the testing requirements when you come back
Mhm.
to the country, the requirements to wear masks, the requirements to work from home, and I've even heard rumblings about at some point in March maybe you won't have to isolate anymore, even if you test positive.
Oh my
So they're
goodness.
really having a go at loosening everything up.
And you're able to travel,
We
yeah?
hope
Like
it.
traveling would be much easier as far as because I know Danny was having trouble last year coming to Prosper, and that was so sad because we had this whole amazing plan, and he was like ready, like waiting to the moment, then it didn't happen. And it was just sad because you want to see your friends, you want to see your people, and it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But let's cross our fingers and hope that this year will be much better. So you're coming to Prosper?
I hope so. Yeah. You
Yay.
too?
Okay. Amazing. Of course. It's
Yeah.
literally one of my favorite shows. And the sessions are very good. You get to learn a lot of things. But I think for some of us that have been in the business for so long, like in my case, Ryan Ball's case, we've been doing this for over 7 years. So you tend to hear kind of the same information, a little bit repeated, but it's always so nice because you get to see other people spin on different things and how they think of a different solution. So I love seeing the innovation and entrepreneurs, and this is why, like, one of the reasons I love being in the Amazon community. It's always like all these amazing people, and then we get to discover new amazing people, just like with Branded by Women and Seller Sessions Live. It's like you get to meet all these other cool people that you wouldn't have met if, we didn't have a platform such as, branded by women. So I'm super excited about that. And I get to see you in May.
Yeah, I know. I'm very excited and super excited. It's going to be live as well. I think it's such a great idea to organize a conference focused on women. And there are some pretty awesome speakers. So I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I love that you're excited. I think we all are. I mean, I talked to some of the ladies that are going to be speaking, and everybody's just so happy to see this being live and in person, because it's been online. And again, it's great, but just being in that room together, like such powerful women, and we're just paving the way for the new generations. And I know a lot of women struggle a little bit with that shyness. I don't want to speak on stage, even though they're brilliant and they have all this fountain of knowledge within them. And I think it's just so important to showcase that and bring that confidence in all of us. It just takes a lot of practice. So I'm excited
100%.
for that. But Olivia, I wanted to ask you, for those who don't know you, I'm sure a lot of people do, but do you want to tell us a little bit your journey, for the past 10 years? You have a pretty impressive resume. So I'm just excited for you to share, because I know, but I want everybody else to know. So.
No, that's very nice. I don't know how impressive it is really, but so I worked for the last 10 years in Goldman Sachs in the city in London. I joined there straight from university, and I did a couple of roles while I was there. The first team I was in was the equity capital markets team. And basically they were focused on raising equity for companies. So whether that was private companies looking to sell a chunk of equity and bring on investors, or companies going public on a public stock exchange, or then public companies raising money from the stock exchange. So I did that for a few years, focused on a mixture of emerging markets in the UK. And then I moved to a more industry-focused team where I was just working with technology and media companies, doing kind of a full range of corporate finance advisory. So helping them raise equity, helping them raise debt, advising companies on buying and selling basically other businesses. So for the Amazon community, something that might be more familiar to people is what we call brokers today. That's kind of what I was doing before. So a slice of what I was doing in my old life was advising businesses through their sale process. But today, since May last year, I've been working at Branded, which is an e-commerce company that, amongst other things, is also aggregating Amazon brands. But we do sort of the full range of e-commerce. So we also buy direct-to-consumer brands, and we also launch brands ourselves. So it's a pretty fast-paced, exciting company. I've taken kind of quite a bit of the experience that I had before in investment banking to here, but there's a lot that's new. And yeah, it's basically where I am.
What a journey. I mean, you had such an impressive career path, reaching such a level that is not, I have an issue saying this, but it's not so common for women as it is for men. What do you think helped you get to such a high level?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think partly ultimately mentorship from other women within the business. I have to credit that people took the time to help me and push through. I think conversely to what you might expect, the investment bankers, they do make an effort to hire 50% women at the start and to support women through their careers. And I also had some great external access to some great external training on exactly the kind of things you were talking about, confidence in public speaking and getting up on stage and dealing with clients and making your voice heard. So all of that was super helpful. But I think in the end, it's the same as everyone else. It's just kind of like a bit of hard work and grit as well, that goes into it, and just making that push. I think one thing that's been so nice about crossing over into this Amazon space is the number of female entrepreneurs that you come into contact with. Like there are a lot in this space, and that's so nice. It's like amazing for me to see, because certainly where I was working before, it was very, very male dominated, and you get used to that and you adapt. But it's really, really nice to be in an industry now where I see a lot of women succeeding to very high levels.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And I agree with that. And which is why, we do what we do, especially with Branded by Women. We just want to have even more females. I mean, I love working with men, and, I learned so much, and I learn about like their grit and how they don't take, no for an answer. And, being surrounded by, really like that masculine energy of like, I'm gonna do it regardless. It is powerful. And if we're able to like teach other women how to step into that, because we tend to have a lot more reservations, I think, like whether it's confidence or lack of whatever, it's harder for women to put themselves out there. And just by being us, we're able to empower that. I mean, you're, as I said, and I'm not trying to like make you feel like anything, but like I am very impressed by what you have achieved. And being able to be with Goldman Sachs for so long, and keep performing and increasing your skills, and it's just so beautiful to see. But speaking of skills, like, do you see that anything that has helped you like on your next step, like something that pushed you to that level? Like, was there something that you were working on? And I don't know what that would be. It's so different from everyone.
Yeah, so I think that kind of came a point in my prior career where you go from kind of being the person who's tinkering around in the car behind the scenes. It's a very numbers heavy job, so often being based in Excel, being based behind the screen, and then you switch into becoming the person who's actually out there and selling. So the way the investment banking model works is that the senior people go out and meet clients and find business, and the junior people kind of execute on that. And I remember the first time I was kind of conscious of the female versus male dynamic is when you make that step over into having to be the person that really drives the engine and drums up new business and goes out and is forceful and cold calls and gets yourself those meetings, and people remember you, and you have to speak up. And also at least in my old job, it's competitive. You're competing against men, and in my case often men that were a bit older than me as well, because I took a path coming straight in from university, so I was on the younger end of people at my level. And it's tough. It's a really tough transition to make. And I'm not sure that I've still kind of made it perfectly, but I'm glad that I did make that leap in my old job, because I brought a lot of that into what I'm doing now, because it's very working at a much younger startup company. If you don't do something, nothing happens. You have to be the person out kind of making your own destiny, driving things, driving conversations, making things happen, pushing things forward. And I think kind of being thrown in at the deep end of my old job gave me the tools to be able to do that. I just got used to having to do it.
And it just like your confidence probably increased with every single step and every single issue that you tackled. Did you ever feel like giving up? Did you ever have one of those moments like, I can't do this?
Yeah, of course. I have those moments all the time. I have those moments all the time, but I take a deep breath and I get back out there. I think all the time, looking back over the past 10 years. But I think it's in those moments when you pull yourself together that actually those are kind of the defining moments, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, I love that, defining moments. And I agree with that, because, and I really wanted to ask you this question, because I don't want to give the wrong impression to somebody that we don't struggle. Like, the struggle is always there, whether you've been with a company for 6 months or 5 years or 10 years. It's, you just get better. Like, your confidence increases, and you're able to make some decision based on your past decision and the data that you've acquired by going through all of this. I think a lot of people think like, oh, you just you're just lucky, or you're just born into being a leader or so forth. But it really takes time. And like, even for me, having my own business for so many years, I still have challenges that maybe I wasn't aware of before, presented with before. And it's a struggle every time. And it's not like, oh my God, I have all these years of experience, I should figure it out like that. And I think it's so important to just underline that we all go through that. Doesn't matter how long we've been doing anything. And that's, if you look at it, it's really the beauty of growing. Like, I wouldn't have it any other way, and I'm sure you wouldn't either. I mean, it got you to this point, right?
Yeah, of course. And it comes a bit with time as well, and experience. I think you learn that, well, at least that I've learned, that there are a very few problems at work that you can't solve. That with the speaking to the right person, or just taking a step back and taking a breath and solving out the problem, it isn't life and death work that we do, thankfully. We're not like doctors and surgeons, and so everything, you can solve everything. And that's a very comforting thing to know, having worked for 10 years, that there's a way out of every situation, even when the pressure is high and it feels very tough. It's solvable. And I think once you kind of know that, and the only way you can know that is with the benefit of experience, but once you know that, I think you then take that attitude into any situation that you're in, and that confidence. I guess it is a confidence thing. You're right.
It is. And again, that's just built. Like, you're not, I mean, maybe some people are just born with it, but
I'm not.
I don't know. Like, every single person I talk to, they're like, no, I wasn't born with this. Like, I had to, grow into this. I guess that would be a more suited word for this. But what is your perspective on why there's a lack of women in this higher up positions? Like, if you were to pinpoint a few.
Yeah, so it's such a good question, and one that my prior company spent a lot of time trying to solve. I hate to use this as a kind of cop-out answer, but obviously women tend to sometimes have more childcare. More of the weight of childcare falls on them than on men. And I think that, at the point of your life when your career is getting to its most intense and you're making that jump, is also tends to coincide with the years that women start to have kids. And it just kind of resets, I think, a bit the pace of your career path. And I think that's fine. And then I think it's also just that having that kind of confidence to speak up, and most of the women I know tend to approach problems worrying about what they can't do, whereas most of the men I know, including my partner, approach everything about what he can do first. It's like that famous thing, thinking about a job spec. A woman will look at it and think, oh, I can't do X, Y, and Z, and a man will think, oh, I can do these 3 things, great, I'll apply. So it's a bit of kind of inherentness that isn't true of everyone. But then I do think that those kind of years where you might be taking maternity leave or starting a family, they probably have an effect as well. Certainly that tended to be the big block in my old job, because the hours are quite hard and intense, and it's just more of a difficult juggle once you have a family, I think, to keep working in that way.
That is such a good point. I mean, there's so many ways you can unpack this, but I think I agree with that. I mean, I think both of us are maybe a little bit different. I mean, you recently had a baby, you have an 18-month-old. So, but you were still able to hold such high position and, transitioning into branded. Like, how were you able to balance like this work and family, as they call it, especially with such a young baby?
I mean, I'm kind of working it out as I go along. I don't think I have it down perfectly yet. I think the first thing that I should say is that it takes a village, and I have a lot of people helping me. My partner is very hands-on. Our parents are very helpful. You can't do it alone. But yeah, it's a juggle. And some days I feel I did it really well, and some days I feel I didn't do it that well. But I'm learning all the time, and she's changing all the time and becoming more independent. I don't know that I've spoken to any woman who has this down, unless you're about to tell me that you're the one. You've solved it. I think it's always like a bit of a rough juggle, and you always feel like you're not doing the best job at one or the other. But I feel that I'm maybe finding a rhythm where it's doable, and I'm working from home, which I know we were discussing earlier before we went on air, but that helps a lot, you know. It helps to be able to squeeze a bit of family time in between calls.
Oh, you are so right. And no, I haven't met a woman that has it all figured out. And you're right. Like we also get this, thoughts into our head. Like, am I doing enough? I have friends who all they do is they just, stay at home moms. And I will admit I do get a little bit jealous sometimes, because I feel like, I'm not always 100% present. And also my mental capacity, it's like, by the time like I get to spend with my kid, I'm like so exhausted sometimes that I feel like I'm not giving myself as I should. So I think a lot of women also have this, stress of like, am I being enough? Am I, because everything you do is for your kids, but at the same time, it's like, but would it be better to like spend that time with my kid now instead of like building this company or helping humanity in other ways like you guys do at Branded? It's definitely tough. I mean, at least it has for me on just those thoughts coming all the time.
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, and I think you're the same, but we also like, part of us works because we have to support our family, and part of us works because we really love it, and we love what we do. And so there is that kind of like push and pull, that you love your kid, but you also are dedicating a lot of time to something else that also brings you joy and makes you and makes you a more rounded person.
Yeah, it's so crazy because a lot of like I think of that like, okay, I love my kid very much and I love what I do very much, and then it's like, should I feel guilty for like also loving what I'm doing?
Yeah, it's classic mom guilt.
Oh, okay. So I'm not alone. And I thought that as I get older and he's growing, that somehow I'll feel different. I mean, it has changed a little bit. It has transitioned to something else, but I can't help but think of that sometimes. And these are things that maybe men don't have to deal with so much, because it's like almost expected that they need to go to work and provide. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm from Romania, so like in our culture it was very like male dominated. Like my dad always worked, like all the men always worked, and the females were at home raising the kids. But then like I saw my mom also working, so I got some of that confidence from that as well. Like, okay, you're able to raise the three of us, because we're three siblings, and still be able to work. And she managed it. But I mean, looking back, I guess I do miss some of those times where she wasn't there. But at the same time, like I understand as an adult, like, oh my god, the sacrifices that were made. And it's just beautiful to see. Like, we're pretty powerful as women, I would say.
Oh my god, women are impressing me all the time.
I know, I love it. Like I look at, I mean, I have quite a few role models, but like like look at Sarah Blakely, like what she has been able to accomplish. And I look at so many, and like female writers, and I just love seeing that. Like it gives me that confidence, like you can do all of it. You can, I think. And going back to Branded by Women, like it's such a beautiful way. And I would love to see other people do that and incorporate more, and not for like really any monetary reasons, but like giving somebody the stage to showcase who they are, because we're all so unique and so different. Like we all do different things and we think differently, and that's what makes, I think, humanity so beautiful, that we are all so different. And it's unfortunate to see sometimes like people are trying to copy others to feel like they are that they have arrived, when really the beauty in all of us is how unique we all are. That's just my opinion.
No, I think that you're absolutely right. And I think I haven't seen anything else like the Branded by Women conference. Was it your idea or Danny's? Or
It was definitely Danny's, and he was able to like get a few of us that believed in his idea, and of course everybody he told us to, they were just like, oh my god, this is the best. And as like the event is for men and women, but again, just having that presence, like we can do this, like we can we can be on stage and we can present and just have a good time. And I think it all comes down to that. Like I just love people, and I know it sounds so like, oh my god, you just love people, but I really do. Like I actually get my energy from people. That's why COVID time has been a little hard on me, because
tough.
I just love that energy where we're all together. But continuing on this topic of women, and by the way, guys, we didn't know this is the direction we were going to go. I always love to just have the interviews like flow, but I feel like it's so important to revisit this conversation, especially with powerful women such as yourself. But do you think there's a disadvantage for companies that don't have like women in top high level? Like, what do you think those are? Like, what do you think women bring to the table?
Well, I think that my view that I've got to over time is that companies are disadvantaged by not having diversity within the organization. And any way that you cut it down, like I've listened to loads of podcasts and read books on this, but women just think differently to men. I think, we feel that in everyday life, we all know it, but their brains often work in slightly different ways, and they approach things in different ways. And so I think if you have too much of one kind of person in any organization, and you're never having that diversity of view and that diversity of discussion, it isn't healthy for the company in the long run. And the reality of life is that it's gender diverse. So I mean, if I think about the investment bank I was working at before, our clients weren't all men, so it doesn't make sense for everyone working at the top level of the company to be all men. And it's very much the same in terms of what we're doing now. Like at Branded, we're selling products to consumers, many of whom are actually female. So you need female perspectives in the company, but just in general, you need diverse perspectives. And I always find that teams that are gender diverse and background and culture diverse work the best, because people will raise issues that you never would have thought about. And I think that's why it's important to have women, in the tops of organizations, as well as at every level, really.
Oh, that is beautiful. Yeah. And we all bring something to the table, and it can be just like one idea or one thought that could literally change everything. And I love that. I think that is that is really great. I know I'm like, I love everything you're saying. I love everything you're saying. But what do you what were some challenges that you went through, like as you were raising, your position with the years? Like, what are some things that you can remember? I know they're all in the past. You no longer have challenges, but what were some of them?
I think I'm just and maybe it's not so obvious now, but I'm just not the kind of like naturally most pushy. I don't know if pushy is the right word, but I'm just not that person, to speak over someone else and be the most visible and push myself to the front. And that's maybe partially a female thing. Maybe it's partly a British thing as well, but it's also very much partly a me thing. It's just who I am. And I see that in other female colleagues who are younger. It's also partly age. And it's kind of quite difficult there is a challenge if that's kind of the way that you naturally are, to change that. And I've pushed myself out of that and pushed myself forward over time with confidence and age and experience, and realizing actually I do have 10 years of experience, and I know things, and I have things to say and valued points of opinion. And the first few times you speak up in a big room, it's terrifying. The next few times it's like a bit less scary, and before you know it, you're actually leading meetings and presenting things. But I remember the pain of going up that curve. That's not something that I've forgotten. It's kind of etched in my memory, and that that for me, I would say was sort of the tough thing of making the leap into a more senior position.
Yeah, but I love that. Like you feel the fear and you do it anyway. And then it just gets a little easier until it becomes a thing of the past. And I think that's, one thing that, I saw in myself as well. Like we try to skip steps. Like we just want to like never having done a podcast, never having been on stage, and then get on stage and be perfect. And that's what most people don't want. They just want to already be there. But it's nearly impossible. I don't know anybody that has never spoken on stage and one day they got on stage and they were the best. It's impossible. You have to go through these things. Like even me with this podcast, when Danny asked me to be a host, and of course in my mind I'm like, no way, I'm not doing this. No way, no way. And then he asked me, he's like, you want to do it? I'm like, yes. Even though I had all these fears, like, what are people going to think? Like, I have an accent. I'm not Danny. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? And you just find your way, but you have to say yes.
Yes, you have to say yes. I think that's really right.
And I don't know if there's like that perfection level that we're aspiring to. It's just by practicing and doing it all the time, you get to a point where it no longer bothers you. It's like you get to that confidence level that you're like, it's just me. Those who would like to listen, they will listen anyway. So at least that's really how I deal with it. But again, having like role models, like you said, there are probably a lot of women in your life that have helped you. Do you remember like some of them, like who were like your inspiration, and what did you learn from them?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember my first boss when I first started at Goldman, and I must have been 21, 22. And she was probably my age now, but she was badass. I mean, she was incredible. And I remember looking at her and thinking like, wow, it was so, it was inspiring. It's what I aspired to be. And it's funny to think that actually probably I'm around the age now that she was then. But she was so memorable. She was fashionable. She was a big presence. And, in an office full of men, you remembered her absolutely. But she was also, super smart. She had great content. She was always prepared, always on time, worked super hard, but she also seemed to have some balance in her life, great relationships outside work. And she was tough, she was really cool. And that was, I think really like looking back, I was actually very lucky to have such a powerful female boss, because I don't think many women joining banking 10 plus years ago probably had that. So that was very lucky, but that was awesome for me. And then there've been many women along the way who've taken me under their wing, and particularly when I made the leap to becoming a mother, women that I turned to or proactively reached out to say like, hey, this is going to be a wild ride. Let me share some tips. And I also have my mom, my sister, an amazing network of female friends in my life who I'm turning to all the time for advice. And it's that kind of like village of people that really get you through.
Oh, that is.
I could go on and on about this.
Yeah, I know it's so good to pay your respects in that manner, and just to remember like all these people that helped you become who you really are right now. Like that is, you're right, that is lucky to have had that powerful presence where you can still be feminine, but yeah, take a position of this is who I am confident. And I'm sure there were times where she probably didn't feel confident, but she came from that confidence and be in the moment and say, this is who I am. So did you ever, I mean, I'm sure you did, but did you ever have conversations with her like, this is, what I've done because of you and things like that? Do you ever tell her that?
Not recently, but yeah, I definitely did all the way through. And I remember eventually when she left to go and start her own company, I also thought that was incredible as well. Like the, that's a risk and a big deal. And she did it with such kind of confidence and grace. So yeah, absolutely. I'm
Do you keep in
constantly
touch?
telling the women in my life that they keep me going and keep me sane.
Do you keep in touch with her?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
That is beautiful. Is she in London as well?
She's in London as well. Yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll get Danny to have her on Branded by Women next year. I love being in the presence of, confidence and intelligence and all this, whether it's from men or women. But obviously, because I'm a woman, I like to see women that have built something for themselves, because I didn't have the confidence. I didn't really have anything, coming from Romania. It was just me. And, having these females in my life that I could look up to, and whether they were just on a screen or, somebody just simple in my life. But it's so important. And I think a lot of people don't realize the importance of having that positive presence in your life. Like, it can help you, like, with one thing, one sentence can change really how you think in your next step. So, oh, what a great journey has been for you. But I mean, I think you're a role model yourself right now.
I'm not
What
sure about that. Thank you.
you really are. But what is some advice that you would give to women who want to reach your level of success, or who are on their path of creating something?
I think I would just say that you can do it. Often, and not always, but often it's you stopping you more than it is outside forces. I mean, I hope anyway, that is a thing of the past, that women are actively held back. At least I hope not in any of the circles that we're moving. And so I wish, like, what I could tell my younger self is, you will get there, you will do it, you'll succeed, and enjoy the journey a bit, I think our tendency is to default to worrying a lot about the present and the future and what's going to happen. But I think, with hard and consistent work, you will get there, and you can get there. And if it means that you need to pivot and move away from a toxic situation, or a boss that isn't working for you, or start your own thing, great, do it. But you can kind of forge your own path, and you can get where you want to go.
That is beautiful. You're speaking to me right now, to me and all the other women. And it doesn't matter like how high we get. I feel like this is always such a good thing to remember. We really can do it all if we want to. I mean, we're moms, we're business owners, we're high level positions, we're factory workers, all of us. It's just I think it's so beautiful to have this tribe of women supporting women, and men supporting women, and women supporting men. I just love seeing people really support people. I think that's my favorite thing about humanity. If I were to pick one, it would be like, people helping others without any expectation to receive anything back. And I think that's beautiful. And sometimes I forget, but I try to make a mental note every day to do something nice for somebody, whether it's like sitting in line at the grocery store and like speaking to the person checking me out. And you could tell, like, they just light up. Like, some people, they just like, oh my God, like, that is nice. And you don't even know. And sometimes people are just like, they don't want to talk to you. But it's like, keep doing it, whether it's like paying for somebody behind your Starbucks. Like, I love doing things like this. And it's like, selfishly, it makes me feel good too. It's like, if for anything, like, just giving you that feeling of like, oh my God, like, I did something today. Like, I want to live my life like that. I truly do. I think it's so empowering for all of us. It's, whatever position you hold in life. I think
you have such a lovely bright smile as well. You just light up. So
well, I was going to tell you when we got on, because I was looking at your LinkedIn the other day, and I'm like, has anybody ever told you that you look like Natalie Portman a little bit?
No.
You do. You really do. Like, let me see. I have your LinkedIn pulled up. Like,
no. No one told me that, and I don't believe it.
I swear. Like, of course, now you're like blonde, but like something about your feature in your face, I'm like, she looks like Natalie Portman. I think.
Wow,
I don't
that's
know.
also
We'll
the
have
nicest
to.
compliment I've ever received. So you've done your bit for the day of making
No,
people
we'll
feel.
have to do a poll. I swear. Like I don't know. Like it's something about you. But I mean, obviously you're gorgeous and smart, and all of those things. I could go on with compliments all day. But I just want to ask you one more thing. How was your transition from being at Goldman Sachs for so long and to leave that all behind and work for Brendan? Like that must have taken. I can't even imagine like what you felt inside. Like give me some insight into that. How was that transition?
I was ready for it. I was ready to do it, to make a transition and work in a different way and in a bit of a more modern way and for a kind of younger, fresher company. I did want that. So there was that kind of pull. But I think pivoting career at any point is always a bit of a minefield. And no matter how well you prepare yourself for it, you have to relearn how to, I got very comfortable in my old job knowing that I knew what to do. Yeah. And there are big elements of this job that carry over from that, but there are big elements that don't, different cultural elements, learning all about the Amazon space. There's a lot to get up to speed on, but actually I think it's not easy, but actually it gave me a lot more energy than I was expecting. Sometimes you do need to shake it up a bit, Yeah.
Absolutely. Were they shocked? Were they shocked that you were going to leave? Or what was that? What was their reaction? Or they saw it coming?
I'm not sure. A mix, a mix. And I think that, there was when you watch a woman, especially, and they're trying to kind of push women forward in their career, who's gone all the way through the company, right from being a grad to leave, it's sad. And it is sad kind of leaving somewhere that was home. I grew up there and they taught me. I saw your dog walking in the background. So cute. Kind of like don't worry. Everything that I learned from them, and it was a kind of family and a home. So it's sad to leave it, but I think when you're ready, and I think that my bosses probably sense that too.
That's and this is another thing. It's like that confidence to step really into the unknown. I mean, Branded it's a wonderful company, but I mean, I'm like trying to put myself in your shoes, like leaving something so stable, and like you said, like you already done it, like you already know you got it all figured out, and then to be able to be like, okay, I'm gonna put this aside and like let's start this new adventure, and with a baby and all of this, I can't imagine it was easy, but I'm so glad to see that you are happy. I mean, I can tell you're very happy.
Yeah, I'm very happy. There's always that part of you that thinks, oh, am I doing something too crazy, mixing everything up? But I wake up every day happy. So I feel very like comfortable with that.
And Branded is, it's an amazing company, and I really love what you guys do. And let's talk a little bit about Branded. What makes Branded different than all the other aggregators?
Gosh, I can speak to the things that I think are special and why I think we'll succeed, and why exactly, as you say, I left a stable career to come and work here. And ultimately those things are the founders. So the two guys that started the company have built a big e-commerce company before together. And so they know what it means to kind of scale up a fast growing company, and they get e-commerce and they get marketplaces because the business that they built was a marketplace business. And they bring that knowledge and experience to a young company, and it kind of resonates through the company. And there's, you have the feeling that like, okay, these guys know what they're doing and they're steering the ship. And that for me, I think is amazing to have such deep e-commerce experience at the top of this company. And then, the other thing is the team that they've built, which I don't mind bragging about because it's nothing really to do with me, but the people running the brands, like the majority of people at Branded are operators, whether they're from a tech e-commerce background or a consumer products background. But there are some really impressive, like real experts in their field I guess not dissimilar to me, I'm doing acquisitions and I've spent 10 years at Goldman Sachs. There's similar kind of levels of experience in each of the functions we have. And I'm constantly impressed when I'm speaking to people about, how much they know and their attitude and how fun they are to work with. And that gives me energy every single day. Working from home, most of it's on Zoom. It was like months before I met some of my colleagues and we meet and we're like hugging and embracing because it's just a really cool team of like-minded people pushing to do something quite special and a bit different. I think we're looking for we're trying to become a sort of digital Procter & Gamble style umbrella company with a lot of household name brands underneath it. And so we're looking for real brands. We love to partner with founders, which is also so cool. Like we bring founders onto our platform and they have so much vision and creativity and energy. And we bring that in as part of branded wherever we can. So it's really fun. I feel the great momentum and I'm really excited for what we can do this year as well.
That is beautiful. And I love that you mentioned that you like to bring in the founders as well, because again, it goes back to like, how different we all are and, the way we think, maybe one way, and then you bring this new perspective and it just becomes this beautiful bouquet of like magic the way I see it. So I think that's so great. What do you guys do? I really respect all of you there and your work. And I'm very impressed and humble to even be speaking to you. I thank you for your time. You're very sweet. Olivia, how can people find you if they'd like to get in touch with anyone at Branded or they want to speak to you directly? Like, what are some best ways to reach you?
Yeah, so on email, I'm Olivia@joinbranded. You can always get me there or on LinkedIn as well. Olivia Jones. It's a fairly common name, but if you say Olivia Jones Branded, I should pop up. So I'm constantly looking at LinkedIn as well. Those are the two best places.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know it's late for you, and I know you have an 18-month-old daughter that you have to attend. But I always say this to people, like, giving somebody the time. It's like it's our biggest asset that we have. So every time I speak to somebody, whether it's like 10 minutes or an hour, I'm like, thank you for your time. Like, I really want them to accept that because it's time is all we have. So thank you.
And thank you so much for having me. It's my great honor, and it was such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. I hear your baby mama. So beautiful. Well, thank you, Olivia, and I look forward to seeing you at Prosper and in May at Branded by Women.
Lovely. Thank